December 2, 1993. A barefoot man in his 40s scrambles across a Medellín rooftop, pistol in hand, gasping for breath. Bullets tear through the air. He falls. The world's richest criminal, supplier of 80% of America's cocaine, worth $420 million a week, dies one day after his 44th birthday. But the real story isn't the final shootout. It's how a poor kid from Envigado turned Colombia into his personal battlefield, bribed judges, bombed planes, built zoos with hippos, handed cash to slum kids, and was finally brought down not just by the DEA or Colombian police, but by betrayal from inside his own circle. This is the true story of Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, El Patron, the man who made billions flooding the world with cocaine, declared war on his own government, and became both folk hero and monster. The kid who refused to stay poor. December 1, 1949. Rio Negro, Colombia. Pablo is born to a farmer father and schoolteacher mother. The family moves to Envigado, a Medellín suburb. Young Pablo is smart, charming but restless. He tells classmates he'll be president one day. Instead he gets expelled from school. By his teens he's stealing tombstones, sandblasting names, reselling them. He graduates to car theft, kidnapping, cigarette smuggling. At 22 he marries 15-year-old Maria Victoria and now in secret. Their son Juan Pablo, later Sebastián, arrives soon after. In the mid-1970s, cocaine explodes in Miami and New York. Pablo sees opportunity. He starts small, muling paste from Peru and Bolivia. By 1976, he's caught with 39 kilos hidden in a tire. He bribes the judge. The arresting officers are later murdered. Message sent, plata o plomo, silver or lead. Building the empire. 1976 to 1980. Pablo founds the Medellín cartel with partners like the Ochoa brothers, Carlos Leder, and his cousin Gustavo Gaviria. They innovate, private airstrips, Norman's Cay Island in the Bahamas as transshipment hub, submarines, planes dropping loads in the Everglades. By early 1980s, Medellín controls 80% of U.S. cocaine. Pablo earns $420 million weekly, $22 billion a year at peak. Forbes lists him among the world's richest. He buys Hacienda Napoles, 20 square kilometers estate with colonial mansion, bullring, artificial lake, private zoo, elephants, giraffes for hippos that later escape in multiplying Colombian rivers. He plays Robin Hood, builds housing for 400 poor families in Medellín, funds soccer fields, churches, clinics. Slum kids call him Don Pablo. He tells journalists his money comes from bicycle rentals. The poor believe him. Politicians take his bribes. The mask slips. 1982. Pablo enters politics, elected alternate congressman for Liberal Party. Diplomatic passport. Immunity. But Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla exposes his criminal past. Pablo's response. April 30, 1984, Lara gunned down outside his daughter's school. President Belisario Betancourt declares war. Escobar retaliates. November 1985, Palace of Justice siege, M-19 guerrillas, allegedly funded by Escobar, storm Supreme Court to destroy extradition records. Army retakes building, over 100 dead including justices. 1989, Avianca Flight 203 bombing, 107 killed, to assassinate presidential candidate Cesar Gaviria, who wasn't on board. Escobar bombs newspapers, police stations, shopping centers. Thousands die in narco-terror. He offers $2 million per dead policeman. Medellín becomes murder capital of the world. The rivalry between the Cali cartel and Pablo Escobar's Medellín cartel was one of the bloodiest and most consequential conflicts in the history of the global drug trade. What began as a pragmatic alliance in the 1970s and early 1980s devolved into a vicious, all-out war from 1988 to 1993, marked by assassinations, bombings, betrayals, and the formation of death squads. This feud not only weakened Escobar's empire but helped pave the way for his downfall in December 1993, and briefly elevated the Cali cartel to dominance in the cocaine world. Early alliance, cooperation before conflict. In the mid-1970s through the mid-1980s, the two organizations weren't enemies, they were business partners in a booming cocaine market. Pablo Escobar's Medellín cartel, with its centralized, violent structure and flashy tactics, dominated transportation routes and supply from Colombia's north. The Cali cartel, led by the sophisticated Rodriguez Orihuela brothers, Gilberto and Miguel, alongside José Santa Cruz Landano and Helmer Pacho Herrera, operated more discreetly from the south, focusing on corruption, bribery and long-term relationships with officials. They divided U.S. territories to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Medellín took Los Angeles and much of the West Coast, plus heavy influence in Miami and South Florida. Cali controlled New York City and the Northeast. They shared Miami and Houston markets. This arrangement stabilized prices and reduced internal competition. The cartels even collaborated on defensive measures, forming groups like MAS, Muerte a Secuestradores, Death to Kidnappers, in the early 1980s to combat guerrilla kidnappings of traffickers. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, however. Escobar's bombastic high-profile narcoterrorism, bombings, assassinations of politicians, judges and police, drew massive heat from Colombian authorities and the U.S. DEA. The Cali leaders viewed this as reckless, threatening everyone's operations. The spark? Territorial disputes and personal grudges. The breaking point came around 1988, triggered by a mix of business disagreements and personal slights. A key flashpoint was a dispute over U.S. distribution territories, particularly New York or Los Angeles routes. One incident involved Pacho Herrera, a top Cali lieutenant known for his flamboyance and homosexuality, and a Medellín associate clashing over a personal matter or territory in the U.S. The Monaco apartment bombing in late 1988 is often cited as the escalation. A massive car bomb detonated near a building where Escobar and his family were staying in Medellín. Escobar blamed Cali, seeing it as an attempted preemptive strike on him and his loved ones. From that point, open war erupted. Escobar retaliated by targeting Cali's legitimate businesses, used for money laundering, bombing offices, warehouses and killing civilians in the crossfire. Cali responded with precision hits on Medellín associates. The war escalates, 1988 to 1993. The Cali-Medellín war was asymmetric. A Medellín style, brutal, public, terror-driven. Escobar's sicarios carried out mass killings, bombings and high-profile assassinations. This made him a national security threat but eroded his support base. Cali style, low-profile, businesslike. They avoided flashy violence, focused on infiltrating institutions through bribes, and built alliances with police, politicians and even rivals of Escobar. Key events in the rivalry. In 1988 to 1990, skirmishes intensify. Cali allegedly attempts to assassinate Escobar multiple times, including hiring mercenaries in 1989. Escobar kills Cali's allies and bombs their fronts. In 1990, Gustavo Gaviria, Escobar's cousin and key lieutenant, is killed. Some sources link it to Cali intelligence tipping off authorities. In 1992, Escobar murders two former Medellín allies, Fernando Galeano and Gerardo Moncada, inside his luxury prison La Catedral, suspected of skimming profits. This alienates key cartel members including the Castano brothers Fidel and Carlos, who defect. Late 1992, the defectors, funded heavily by Cali, Pacho Herrera reportedly invested $30 million personally, form Los Peeps, Perseguidos por Pablo Escobar, people persecuted by Pablo Escobar. Los Peeps operated as a paramilitary death squad, targeting anyone tied to Escobar. Sicarios, lawyers, accountants, family members and associates. They bombed homes, executed people in public, and provided intelligence to the Colombian search block hunting Escobar. Los Peeps waged a shadow war with near impunity. Many believe they received tacit support, or at least non-interference, from elements of the Colombian government and U.S. agencies frustrated with Escobar's terror campaign. They killed hundreds of Medellín-linked individuals, dismantling Escobar's support network faster than official forces could. By mid-1993, Escobar was isolated, on the run and losing territory. Cali quietly seized Miami routes and other U.S. markets as Medellín crumbled. The aftermath, Cali's brief reign and ultimate fall. Escobar's death on December 2, 1993, on a Medellín rooftop after a traced phone call, ended the war. Los Peeps disbanded shortly after. The Cali cartel emerged stronger, controlling up to 80% of the global cocaine trade in the mid-1990s. They operated more corporately, less violence, more bribery, earning them the nickname Gentlemen of Cocaine. But their low-profile era ended when U.S. pressure led to the arrests of the Rodriguez-Orihuela brothers in 1995. The rivalry's legacy. It fragmented Colombia's drug trade into smaller groups, e.g., Norte del Valle cartel, later paramilitaries like the AUC rooted in Los Peeps/former Medellín elements. It highlighted how cartels could turn on each other more brutally than against the state. It showed the power of betrayal, personal grudges, money disputes and survival instincts trumped alliances. In the end, the Cali cartel didn't just survive the war with Escobar. They helped orchestrate his destruction, only to face their own downfall years later. The cocaine trade proved too lucrative and too ruthless for any one group to hold forever. The Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, played a central, multifaceted role in the Colombian cartel wars of the 1980s and 1990s, particularly the rivalry between Pablo Escobar's violent Medellín cartel and the more discreet, business-oriented Cali cartel. The DEA's involvement was part of a broader U.S. counter-narcotics strategy that included intelligence sharing, training, funding, and direct operational support to Colombian forces. While the DEA officially focused on law enforcement and dismantling trafficking networks, its actions indirectly influenced the dynamics of the cartel-on-cartel conflict, especially through the hunt for Escobar and the subsequent rise and fall of Cali. DEA's overall strategy in Colombia, 1980s, 1990s. The DEA's presence in Colombia intensified in the late 1970s and 1980s as cocaine flooded U.S. cities like Miami and New York. The agency viewed Colombian cartels as the primary source of the U.S. cocaine epidemic, estimating that Medellín and Cali together exported 500 to 800 tons annually at peak. Key priorities: target kingpins, disrupt supply chains, production chemicals, finances, transportation, communications, and build cases for extradition or local prosecution, especially after Colombia's 1991 constitution banned extraditing nationals. Approach: the DEA operated from the U.S. Embassy in Bogotá, working closely with the Colombian National Police (CNP). It provided training, intelligence, technical support e.g. phone triangulation tech, and funding for elite units like the Search Bloc, Bloque de Búsqueda, formed in the early 1990s specifically to hunt Escobar. Kingpin strategy: launched 1992. Centralized DEA headquarters selected high-value targets for intensive focus, shifting from broad enforcement to decapitating leadership. This proved effective against both cartels. The DEA's efforts contributed to the fragmentation of major cartels but did not eliminate the trade. Smaller groups and Mexican cartels later filled the void. Role in the Medellín cartel war and Escobar's downfall. The DEA was heavily invested in bringing down Escobar due to his high-profile narcoterrorism, bombings, assassinations, plane explosions, that threatened U.S. interests and Colombian stability. His support for the Search Bloc. DEA agents, notably Javier Pena and Steve Murphy, later portrayed in Narcos, provided intelligence, training, and technical assets. They helped track Escobar's communications, culminating in the December 2, 1993, rooftop shootout where Escobar was killed after a traced phone call to his son. Indirect boost to rivals. The DEA's pressure on Medellín created opportunities for Cali. As Escobar's violence drew government focus, Cali operated more quietly, expanding market share. Los Peeps controversy. The vigilante group Los Peeps, people persecuted by Pablo Escobar, formed by Escobar's enemies including Cali-linked figures like the Castano brothers and Pacho Herrera, waged a brutal shadow war, bombings, executions targeting family and associates. While the DEA officially denied direct ties, declassified documents and reports indicate some intelligence sharing occurred between Search Bloc members and Los Peeps. U.S. agencies, including CIA elements, probed potential links, with concerns that U.S.-provided intel may have reached Los Peeps. Former agents have acknowledged that certain Colombian officers collaborated with Los Peeps, and the group accelerated Escobar's isolation. The DEA's focus on Escobar helped Cali emerge dominant post-1993, controlling up to 80% of global cocaine briefly. Shift to the Cali cartel mid-1990s. After Escobar's death, the DEA pivoted aggressively to Cali, which had learned from Medellín's mistakes, avoiding overt violence, posing as legitimate businessmen, and infiltrating institutions via corruption. Operations. DEA built cases against Cali leaders, Gilberto and Miguel Rodriguez Orihuela, Jose Santa Cruz Londano, Helmer, Pacho Herrera, through U.S.-based cells, wiretaps, informants, and financial tracking. Key breakthroughs. A high-level insider, Security Chief Jorge Salcedo, defected and cooperated with DEA, providing intel that led to arrests. Gilberto was captured in 1995, Miguel in 1995, after a dramatic raid, and others followed. A outcome. Cali fell by the mid-1990s through arrests and prosecutions in Colombia, with U.S. pressure for extradition later. DEA's Kingpin strategy targeted their command and control in the U.S., seizing assets and disrupting networks. Broader impact and criticisms. Its successes. DEA operations helped dismantle the centralized supercartels, reducing their monopoly and forcing fragmentation into smaller, harder-to-track groups. Criticisms. Some argue U.S. involvement, including alleged tolerance of Los Peeps abuses, blurred lines between law enforcement and extrajudicial violence. The focus on kingpins didn't stop cocaine flow, production shifted, routes evolved e.g. via Mexico, and violence persisted. Legacy. The DEA's work in Colombia set precedents for modern counter-narcotics, e.g., targeting finances using tech, but the drug trade adapted, proving resilient. The puppet masters and the trap. Early 1990s. Pressure mounts. USDA-CIA Colombian search block hunt him. Rival Cali cartel turns enemy, forms Los Peeps, people persecuted by Pablo Escobar. A death squad that kills his lawyers, bombs his family, executes associates. Escobar's empire cracks. Allies flip. Informants feed intel. In June 1991, Colombia bans extradition. Pablo surrenders on his terms. La Catedral, his prison, a mountaintop luxury compound he designs. Jacuzzi, sauna, disco, soccer field, bar, fax machines, phones. Guards are his men. He murders 2 traitors inside, bodies dissolved in acid. July 1992, government tries to transfer him. Escobar escapes through a secret door, crawl space tunnel. Nationwide manhunt begins. Medellín burns again. The betrayal. 1993. Escobar hides in safe houses, moves constantly. He breaks operational security once. December 2nd, calls his son from a payphone to wish happy birthday. U.S. tech triangulates the signal. Search block storms the rooftop. Gunfight. Escobar shot. 3 bullets, 1 through the ear, debated. Suicide or police execution. Bodyguard dies beside him. But the fatal tip? Many believe a close associate, possibly pressured or paid, gave the location. The man who trusted no one was betrayed by someone inside. Funeral. 25,000 mourners, poor families he helped, carry his coffin. His mother lights candles. His empire collapses. Cali takes over briefly, then fragments. Pablo Escobar gave houses to the poor and bombs to his enemies. He built schools, then turned Colombia into a war zone. He made $30 billion, yet died barefoot on a stranger's roof. His hippos still roam free, symbols of a life too big to contain. Was he a monster? A savior? Both. He proved one man with enough money and ruthlessness can bend a nation. But he also proved no empire lasts when trust turns to betrayal. The king is dead. The legend, and the questions, live on. What would you tell the next kid staring at a screen dreaming of power? Is the throne worth the blood?